Welcome to Native Bidaské, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Welcome to another episode of Native Bidaské. I'm your host, Levi Rickert, editor of Native News Online. Chris James is the president and CEO of the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. Recently, he announced his bid for Congress. Since taking over the helm at the National Center in 2017, the organization has nearly doubled its revenue, expanded its client base from 200 to over 1,000 annually, and increased participation in its flagship event, the Reservation Economic Summit, commonly known as RES, by nearly 30%. With him running for Congress, we wanted to talk to him, find out what that's all about. And welcome to Native Bidaské. How are you, Chris?
Hey, Levi, great to see you, sir.
Yes. And, in your announcement, you mentioned our democracy is under threat. Can you elaborate on what you see as the biggest threats and how you plan to address them if you are elected to Congress?
Absolutely, Levi. And first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the show. You know, you've known me for a long time. I think probably a lot of your viewers know me for a long time, and folks really know me as a person and who I am and what I stand for. So, you know, those are values that I want to take to DC. I grew up in Cherokee, North Carolina. My family had small businesses on the reservation. My father was a farmer, and we had a Christmas tree farm. So I grew up in that environment of rural North Carolina. And really, you know, all those values taught me, you know, the value of hard work, the value of taking care of each other, the value of heritage. And I really want to take those same values to Washington. A lot of times, you know, we are so polarized right now in our society. And you know, I think I'm frustrated, just like many of Americans and definitely in Arizonans. We're just frustrated to see how separate our parties are. And when they're separate like that, when they're so polarized, nothing gets done. And I think that's really one of my frustrations when I look at Washington and see how little gets done. And it's more about politics instead of actually supporting the districts and supporting the American people. And that's really what I mean by that.
And Chris, you and I have been around together. We've been friends for a while. Have we ever seen this country is polarized when it comes to politics?
Absolutely not, Levi. And it continues to get worse. And part of the reason of this is just, you know, how we get our news, and also I think at times people don't there's everything's breaking news, everything's a headline. You know, it takes some time to dig into the issues a little more and to really do your research, and I do hope your viewers do their research on me. You know, one of the things I believe in, you know, when you know, and you know, I've been a CEO for a long time on various companies, a federal executive all the way up to the National Center for almost a decade. And when I hire teams and when I hire people, I look at their resume, right? I mean, I try to hire the right people based on what I need for my jobs. And I hope when people think about me for Congress, I hope they take a good look at my background and resume, because we need people that understand policy. We need people that can move legislation. We need people that represent our districts and represent folks, you know, not just their own self-interest. We have way too many lawyers and way too many millionaires elected officials. So I am a unique individual. I will bring leadership, accountability, and really teamwork up to Washington.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're elected, you would be the first Native American ever to serve in Congress representing a district in Arizona. How does your heritage, the Native American in you, influence your political priorities and leadership style?
Well, Levi, thank you for that question. As you know, I'm a descendant, and I am very proud of my heritage and being very proud of being part of the community. I really believe in tribal sovereignty. I mean, I have built my whole career on protecting our communities, making sure that we have the resources that we need, that we also have economic development opportunities. For the past 15 years, I've probably helped over $1 billion of different types of investment into our communities. And that's really important to me. And I get frustrated along with a lot of my colleagues when we go up to Washington, and we're always having to educate about Native communities. And that's if it's about government contracting or about sovereignty or about trust responsibilities, what I would take to Washington, D.C. is I have that knowledge, and I've been advocating for our communities for a very long time. So that's important to me, to make sure that folks understand or about our communities, to understand the diversity of our communities, and to understand the power of our communities.
Yeah, that is so critical. And sometimes you hear these reports that 40% of Americans don't even know Native Americans still exist. So if you're in Congress, you'll have a big influence there. So we need that.
Absolutely.
The Arizona 5th District it really leans Republican. You know that, I know that. And it's been represented by Congressman Andy Biggs since 2017. What's your strategy for connecting with those voters who want change, and how can you extend across the political spectrum to draw them in, especially with independents and moderate Republicans?
That's a great question, Levi. I have worked over the past, I worked in the Obama administration for 8 years. So I have, that experience. During the first Trump administration, I was appointed to work on a FCC board. And then in the Biden administration, I was part of the Harris-Biden transition team. I'm saying all that because I have this bipartisan mentality, and I'm respected on all sides. What people really want to see is they really want people in Congress that share their values and goals, like investing in small business, upgrading broadband, and support infrastructure, and really supporting even our first responders. They want folks to build coalitions, not have that, not everything being so partisan. And that's what Arizona 5 wants. I mean, the folks, when I've been going through the community, talking with folks, from Democrats to Republicans to independents, and really folks, almost all the folks I talk to, we all have some of those same desires of saying, hey, we need a fix in Washington. We need people that represent us, not people that close their door and only represent certain amounts of the community. And I'm going to be that person to represent everybody. I'm going to have a grassroots campaign. I'm going to be out in the community, and I'm going to talk to as many people as possible, not trying to change anyone's view, but listen. I think that's so important. A lot of times our political leaders don't listen to us, and I want to be one that will listen to folks' concern, listens to folks' idea. There's a lot of folks that have some great ideas, and I want to hear those ideas.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I, as you were talking, I was thinking how the average American, it almost at any point, Congress gets very, very low marks in the poll numbers. However, during elections, they get reelected at like 90%. So it's like their discomfort when there's no election doesn't really come through during election time. And so I guess I do have this along that line. Do you think in 2026, the people in Arizona, particularly in the 5th district, will be ready for a change?
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing, we're continuing to see prices rise. We're continuing to see projects here in Arizona. There's over $150 million in my district of projects that were historically funded, that the funding has stopped without any really reason for it. The money was already obligated. It just this administration decided not to move forward on the projects. We've seen nonprofits, thousands of nonprofits lose all of their funding streams that were doing support for small businesses. They were doing support for elders. They were doing support for veterans. They were doing support for healthcare. All of that money has been held back, and most likely is not even being redispersed into other places. It's just been held back, and so I hate to see that. So people are really in District 5 and all over Arizona. People are in all over America. We're really feeling it. We're seeing it every day when we go to the grocery store, and how prices of goods have gone up, probably 5 to 7%. When we go to Walmart, all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is costing $1 or $2 more. Well, when you buy 20 items, $2, it's, that could be up to $30, $40 more on your grocery bill. So we're seeing it every day. We're also just seeing, in Congress and in the administration, just a lot of fighting and misinformation and promises that just weren't kept.
Now, Chris, you come, your history working at the Department of Treasury and the SBA, the Small Business Administration. You have vast knowledge, and certainly being the CEO since 2017 at the National Center, you've done a lot of business economic development, which is, I applaud you for that. How would you apply your experiences transfer to the small business owners in your district, the congressional district, the 5th congressional district?
So, when folks are building businesses, there's still a couple of factors that they're dealing with every day. One is, access to capital. So that's one of the things I have been working with, for all of my career, on how to provide better access to capital. So really, that's going to be one way to do that. Looking at how can we expand low interest loans and grants? How can we help cut red tape for small businesses to not stop innovation, but to continue innovation and create jobs? How can we create incentives on doing local manufacturing in our district and continue to build upon that, as well as creating clean tech firms? Streamlining emergency services grants is also something I'm planning to do as well. But really helping support the small business owner as they not only get started, but also grow. There's lots of opportunities. There's lots of ability to grow and start a business here in Arizona. We definitely want to support that, because when we support our small business community, we support our local economy, job creation, everything like that.
Now, Chris, as the CEO of the National Center and your past involvement in the federal government, talk about your interaction with members of Congress. It seems to me you've been before Senate committees and various hearings. Talk about that and how that will you'll be able to transfer that. Maybe some of the people you already know will be able to roll up your sleeves and get some work done. Talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Even, for the past almost 20 years, Levi, I have been advocating up on the Hill for our communities. Back home in North Carolina, when I ran the Sequoia Fund, the Native CDFI for our community, I'd be up on the Hill advocating for various things. When I was in federal government, I was always being called to up on the Hill with various congressional folks and hearings, talking about our programs that serve. How can we improve our programs? How can we build our programs? And then at the National Center, as you said, for the past 8 years, I probably once a quarter, I'm up in Washington, D.C., meeting with many congressional folks, talking about the importance of the programs that we're building, talking about the importance of small business growth, talking about the importance of government contracting and how important it is to get our small businesses and our businesses into various supply chains. So I have access. I have the ability to pick up the phone and make a call. That's just experience, right? So when I'm actually on the Hill when I'm actually in Congress, I'll be able to network that very quickly. I'll be able to, I know a lot of the congressional members already. I know a lot of their staff already. So it'll just be a natural fit for me to continue the work I've already been doing.
Yeah, I kind of borrow from a saying that I say often: people do business with people they know, and you do know those folks. So that would be a great fit for you. You've spoken about investment, the need for investment in schools, infrastructure, and broadband. What specific federal policies or funding mechanisms would you pursue to address the local needs of the East Valley?
So definitely economic opportunity and community resilience is very important to me. Streamlining federal programs, cutting red tape, investing in education and workforce. We really need to focus. I mean, my kids went through public school here in Gilbert, here in Arizona 5. I have now all three, believe it or not, are going to college. One of them's already in college. Two of them had just graduated and going in college. So really investing not only in the K through 12 schools that they've already been through, but also, we really need to focus on, all those kids have to take student loans. So how are we helping them navigate that and get through college without leaving college with such a great debt? I also believe in community college growth and how can we support more community college as well as workforce development programs here in the district. And I really want to partner with industry and research institutions to ensure that, hey, when students leave college or even high school, if they choose not to go, they're ready for the workforce. So I think those are really important around investing in education and workforce. I just really believe in continuing to build upon that.
As you're talking, everything you said rings true with me. But just since the beginning of this second Trump administration, there seems to be like this major reset in America, coming from the White House. And members of Congress kind of kowtow to everything he wants, the clawback of millions. I mean, doing away of public radio and public television and even education. He's calling for the dismantling. And as you were talking about education, I said, that sounds great, Chris. However, with this reset, how do you fight that big battles? And maybe it is, quite frankly, need to see more Democrats get elected to Congress. And so what's your response to
Well,
that?
I think you're right there, Levi. I mean, definitely we need to see a strong showing in 2026. That's for sure. But secondly, I think people really just need to make a stand. I mean, I think, again, we have oftentimes the wrong people in Congress. I mean, millionaires don't have to really worry about, their future of their kids. I mean, they have wealth to pay for college, or they have wealth to help support. Some the majority of America does not have that support or that wealth. So I think that's one thing, making sure that we have the right people in Congress that actually represent the people. I mean, for me, I grew up, I grew up in small business. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up working. I started working when I was 13 years old. I've worked hard here in the district. My kids went through through public school and supporting that. Public school is so important, but also, I'm dealing with the same things that everyone in my district's dealing with. And I think a lot of times we just always constantly have the ability to focus on the problem, but not really the solution. So things that I'm looking for is like, okay, I understand these are the issues out there. Let's look for solutions together. Let's look for ways that we can actually modernize Medicare to help my elderly parents. How can we help our families as they have to deal with choices every day. And I think it takes people that understand where they're coming from, not just folks that are, maybe not saying that everyone's not a hard worker that's a millionaire, but it's definitely a different lens than maybe what other folks are coming in to, of really just saying, hey, this, I'm the kind of candidate that's going to speak for the majority of our district, not for the minority.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking about the Secretary of Commerce, who he's a billionaire, come from Wall Street, and they were talking about Social Security, and he's one of these ones that really believes there's just all these people trying to defraud the government on Social Security. And he made mention of how his mother-in-law, who lives in a nursing home, if she missed a Social Security payment, it would have no impact on her. And I was thinking, duh. I mean, okay, you're a billionaire. Of course it wouldn't impact her. But I tell you, if you think about the average Native American, they have to pay for insulin, they have to pay for their food with their Social Security. One hiccup, one mistake or lack of a Social Security check, it would definitely have a impact on them. What's your response?
No, I agree, Levi, and I, we really saw that with COVID, right? When folks were, when COVID hit and folks weren't working, the average American probably only had a week to 2 weeks to really to get of savings that so unfortunately for my mom, if she missed the Social Security payment, it impacts us navigating Medicare. Most people, and especially business owners, once they retire, they don't have any insurance. So the only insurance that they have is Medicare, and a lot of American, that's what we rely on. Now there are some there are some add-ons to Medicare in various states, but majority of folks focusing only on Medicare. And when Medicare doesn't always include dental or vision when you're in your elder years, that's a problem. We're using rules that were developed in the 1960s. I think anybody that would say, well, if you miss a payment, it's not going to matter, they don't understand America. They don't understand the need in our communities, that these programs are not handouts. These programs are people work their whole lives and invested into a system. So it's not necessarily just a handout. This is something that they rely on. And if folks in Washington don't always realize that, they're out of touch with their districts and the people they represent.
Yeah, and it strikes me, Chris, given your experience with business development and being in tune and coming from the means that you came from out of North Carolina, I think that it's a good combination for you because you understand the realities. I always like to say it this way, where rubber hits the road, right? And so often politicians talk and talk that it's quite obvious they haven't been in touch with reality for a long time. And we need people like you, Chris, that can just bring the reality to Congress. With the growing diversity in Arizona's population, how do you plan to ensure your campaign is inclusive and reflective of the total community's needs?
Well, Levi, I plan to be out in the community. For me, even in my work, I always had an open door policy. So any job I ever had, people were able to come in and ask me questions. I'm going to run a grassroots campaign that I want to listen to everybody. I want to hear folks because if I'm supposed to represent Arizona 5, I need to know what people really want out of their representation. And as I've been going through the district already, and I've been talking to folks, some people are just like, you showing up is more than what we've had in the past decade. So I'm not only just going to show up, I'm going to listen to people's concerns. I'm going to have roundtables. I'm going to have house parties. Folks are going to have house parties. We're going to do coffees with Chris. I'm going to be from Queens Creek to Apache Junction to Gilbert and all over the place, so people can talk to me, ask me real questions, get to know me, and really check out my background and resume just to see if I'm the kind of person they want in DC. I share their values, and they share that, we have shared values that are going to Washington, DC, and I'll represent the people, not represent my own interests.
Yeah, and in those listening sessions, you'll hopefully truly listen and formulate your platform off of that.
And Levi, I've been doing that as long as you've known me, right? We do listening sessions. Correct. When in 2009, I was part of helping develop all the consultation process for the Obama administration, including Treasury. And then when I was at SBA, continued to build upon that consultation process. We listen to people because you got to listen, and that's how you make policy. I wish I knew everything. If I knew everything, I could go to Washington with some magic wand and fix all the problems. But that's not how it works. We represent the people, and I want to represent the people of Arizona 5. So when I get to Washington, I'm actually representing them, not representing other interests.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And I'm going to ask you what will appear to be a real simple question, but I think it might be the most important question. Why should people in the 5th Congressional District vote for you?
Well, I'm running because I believe our community deserves representation who actually get things done, not just sit on the sidelines, not just go to the White House and for picture opportunities. I'm a husband, I'm a father. I lived in Gilbert for a long time, and I see how hardworking families struggle with what's going on in our country, struggle with the rising cost, struggle with healthcare, struggle with even putting our kids through school. And that's what our community deserves, someone that understands. I believe in infrastructure in our community. I believe in supporting growth in our community, but good growth, right growth. And I didn't grow up in politics. How I grew up, and politics was something that I sort of added, just by going through Washington and working through the federal government. So, I understand the value of hard work. I understand the value of listening to people. And I understand that if I get to Congress on day one, I'll be able to do things. I'll be able to sponsor legislation right away. I'll be able to network with my colleagues and have those bipartisan discussions, because that's something I've been doing for a very long time. And I'll be ready when I get to Congress. Maybe other people wouldn't be so ready. And I believe in holding myself accountable, but most importantly, I believe in holding our leadership accountable. And that's something that I don't think, folks really want to just blame everything on other people and not take the accountability. I want to be accountable, and I want to hold my colleagues accountable. And that's really important to me. And it should be really important to our Arizona 5.
And thank you for that, Chris. We've been talking to Chris James. He is a Native American, Cherokee descent, running for Congress for the 5th congressional seat in the state of Arizona. And we'll have him back before the election. He just recently announced, so we wanted him to get on. And we will actually put his website after this broadcast, at the end of it. And in the meantime, thank you for watching. And we'll be back next week with another edition of Native Bidaské. As I like to tell you every week, elders, take care of those young ones, and young ones, give your elders hugs. We're all in this together, and we're going to make progress for Indian country. Chi McWitch, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. If you value our warrior journalism for Indian country, please consider supporting our work by scanning the QR code or visiting the link below. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and sign up